There we are. Can you see the stream now?
Nope.
Okay, we're trying again.
Yeah,
Working now?
there we go.
Now I can see it.
We're gold.
Hell yeah. Okay, so for today, we're going to go through most of the rigging parts. Hopefully all of them. Like getting the leg done, getting the arm done, getting the spine done, and getting the head done.
So,
Decently at
are we
least.
going to redo these things that you have done?
Yes, I'm showing. Sorry. Yeah, I did a bit of rigging yesterday, and just for me
Yeah, just to.
to redo them, just so I remember them correctly.
Okay.
I'm going to start from the file that I had started from yesterday and do all these things again. All these things aren't really completely finished either, but yeah. But we're going to do an IKF key spine, which isn't really necessary for the um, G requirement, but I'm gonna do it here because it's easier to do the more advanced one, and then you can regress to the easier one if you find it too complicated. It also has like an FK part. I'll go through it step by step, and we'll do the IK leg. This it has a pole vector, and then also some foot rolling controls, which right now only have very simple functionality. Yeah, and right, I didn't manage to do the arm, but we'll do the arm in FK at least, and then probably go through IKFK switching on another lecture. Okay, that's it for the introduction. Gonna close this. And open up the other file. Yes, I am recording. If you can you see the little red dot in the bottom of right screen? Or the green dot, I mean. Or maybe it only shows for me, I don't know.
I think it only shows for you.
Okay, yeah. But thanks for reminding me. Okay, so here is the base skeleton. We should also probably go through placing joints in the hand, I think. So it'll be a bunch, but hopefully we can get through it. Right. So when I start rigging, I like to just guess I can start by creating my rig group, which will house most of the or all of the rigging parts. We're
And
going
how did you
to
do
jump.
that?
I just press. Oh, sorry. I press Control G, which is the hotkey, just to create a group. And if you don't have anything selected, it'll just create a group. I think that is a default key.
It worked for me,
Yes.
so.
Yeah. Here you
I'd
can
just
also
like to
go.
ask.
Yes.
I think I might have made a mistake somewhere along the line,
Okay.
and instead of taking a bunch of time like correcting that, would it be okay if I took your file and worked from there, and then I can, make my own once I make an own character,
Uh,
like from here, or should I just go with what I have and do the best I can?
I'm unsure actually. Like regularly, I think it's probably fine. I'm gonna run an export and then send it up, and you can have this part at least.
Okay.
You guys can compare. But I'll be disappointed if I see like the exact same positions of things. But I won't be super mad when
Uh,
we're done. But you don't have to like go in and like randomly move stuff either. Don't. It doesn't. It's not too bad. I'll just save this.
I think I can work with what I have. It's just that my joints are like super huge.
Or you can change the size of joints by if you click a joint, you have the radius here, and the
Okay.
radius decides
And
how big
that's in the
this.
tool settings also, right?
It's in the channel box layer like editor.
All right. Okay.
You also have the options when you're creating joints in the joints options, where you can set like the default, like it defines short bones and long bones, and if you want different radiuses.
Fair enough. Then
Is
there's
there
no problem.
yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Is there a way to scale several joints at the same time?
Yes, we'll be. I can go through that now, and we'll probably go through it again later in the rig.
Cool.
Maya by default, when you're creating joints, has option here that's called. Don't know why I'm not getting the correct tool open, but okay, we're just gonna go ahead and do this. Here we are. In this tool settings of joints, we have an option that says scale compensate, which is something Maya likes to do when you have a joint chain and you scale up a joint. It automatically downscales the child.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't show. That's what it's doing. And in the node editor in Maya, you can grab a joint chain like this. You can either like select everything, like shift select, or you can select the top joint, hold right click and select hierarchy to get all the children as well. And then you can middle mouse drag them in here in the node editor, and you will see a green connection that's going between them. And this green connection is sending out the parent joint scale into the child joint's inverse scale, which is what's happening. So you can either turn this off by removing the scaling. It'll be weird, I think, when you have scaling already applied. But if we can go back a few steps. There we go. You can either remove that scaling by just deleting these connections. So now we scale. It looks more similar to how you would if you parented objects normally. You can also just disable it by going here in the attribute editor. There's a segment scale compensate option here, which toggles it on and off. And this connection can still remain, but this will just block that that scale from applying anything. If that answered your question.
You can also go into display, animations, and joint size, can't you?
If you're talking specifically joint size, you can just select.
Yeah, I was gonna name that. I meant joints, the joint sizes.
Oh, then I would select everything, and then under radius you can.
What? That didn't work for me last time. The fuck?
Okay.
Wait, I need to check it out now again.
Yeah, but that's usually what I do.
Yeah, I select several, but it only scales one. Either way.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Ja, det här menar du?
Super strange.
Can you turn on the axis of the joints for a second so I can see how
yeah,
if they look for you?
Usually I like the X as the forward axis for everything.
I think my topmost head joint looks different.
Yeah, if you have a joint chain where it's like you see this joint here and this joint might be like rotated like super off, you can usually find that would fix that quickly by just going into the attribute editor here, and under joint orient, if you just like zero it out, you will match it to its parent.
Okay, so I found a problem.
Okay.
If I drag the radius, it doesn't work. It just kills once. But if I write it in, it works.
On all the joints.
No, like if I select all the joints
Yeah.
and I write in the number, it works. But if I like drag the slider, it doesn't work.
Interesting.
Yeah. Maya for you, man.
Are you dragging? Okay, never mind. It just works. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck you.
Awesome. Okay. Can I turn off the orient?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You can look at them again in the recording. Okay, now we create a rig group, and then we're going to create. What is an easy way of doing that? We're going to create a NURB circle. And is there an easy option to just create a NURB circle? Does anybody know?
Yeah, if you sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, we have in.
No, you go ahead.
Do we have
Oh,
any tab here?
under the tool bar for curves / surfaces, it's like the first one.
Wait, really?
No, wait.
Oh, you're talking. Oh,
the
Is it
tab
NURB,
stuff.
Oh, here.
NURB primitives?
Hell yeah, this one. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead
Yeah.
and middle mouse. I took the middle mouse and I'm gonna drag it over to this shelf, so we have it here. Because I like to use this a lot, which is just you click it and you create a simple curve. And just to show you some options with the curve, when you create a curve, and we create most objects in Maya, they will come with like an creation options thing here, where you can add things like if you were to, you see here, if it's isolated, these are the amount of control points I can affect. Oh, I have objects mirroring off on. We can in here add more sections if you want. So now if you see it's more dense. And we can also change things like if we were to take a point like that, we can change it from being cubic to being linear if you want it to be like spiky. And we can also change which axis it's looking at. So if we were to do this, we're just changing the where the shape is pointing, which doesn't affect the transform itself. So we're going to be creating. I usually create one. I rarely change these options, only like if I want to get extra artsy with the shapes I'm making. And then I like to select like 4 and create a square and use that as our master controller. And since it's centered in the scene, I can just freeze transforms and it'll just apply the rotations. And I'm also going to, in the edit tab, or in the edit tab under delete by type, I'm going to control shift on and middle mouse, or wait, was it middle mouse or was it left click? Left click on history and non-deformer history to get these two. And history is just, it clears all the history nodes that are created for objects, just to constantly try to keep the scene clean from a bunch of garbage. And non-deformer history is only really important when you have skinning data. So if you have skinning applied to a character and you were to just create clear history, it would remove the skinning. But if you have clear non-deformer history, you keep the skinning, basically. Okay.
Where did you find the other type of history?
Under edit and delete by type, you have history, and under history you have non-deformer history.
Okay.
So I just control shift and left clicked on them to create the buttons here. Yeah. Okay, so we created a control, I'm gonna create a group as well. Again, just like not, you can have it selected, I guess, and group it. Just making sure that both are in, they both get created in the center, so you haven't moved them. And then we're gonna name this one master anim, I think, and this one master anim. I just double click this to copy, and then I just paste it here, and then I just press space and then name it group.
I can't really see. You named it master what?
Master anim.
N M.
And this is, so I just named it master anim. I wrote it in the lecture chat.
Ah, okay.
So usually with control objects, I like to name them anim because to mark that they are animatable. But any form of notation will usually like work. Consistency is what's important, not what you name them. And then you can also, if you want to get extra fancy, you can select the shape or select the object, and in the attribute editor you can make sure you have the shape selected, and under object display you can go into draw overrides and you can enable overrides, and then we can make it, let's go with white because that's what I went with yesterday. Just so not everything is the same color. Okay, once we've had the master anim, we can go into making a root controller. So again, I'm just gonna create an herb circle as the control object. We can name it root anim. We can group it. Just copy the name over. Root anim group.
I scaled the master NM.
Yeah.
And tried to delete the history, but the scaling didn't go away.
To apply scaling, you need to freeze transforms. History is different. It's
I'm
other
stupid.
nodes.
Thank you.
No problem. So for this, create a root, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and go with the shape that I made yesterday, sort of. Whoops. Just a little different shape. Gonna clear history on it, and then I'm gonna take this, the group node that I have for the root, and parent it under the master. So now we have root, and it's moving independently, but under the master. So we're gonna keep everything under the master because it's gonna be like our global controller, which we're gonna use to, if we want to rotate or move the character in a scene. We also forgot to parent our master group under our rig group. So we begin with a clean outliner and try to keep it clean constantly. With our root root controller, we can select it and then select the root of the skeleton. And we can apply, I'm going to go into rigging, I'm going to go into constraints, and then I'm going to apply a parent constraint with maintain offset off, since they should share the same position, so no snapping should happen. And we can apply that. Oh, look, awesome snapping happened. I just undid that. I'm going to look at my root node. I see that I have transforms applied here. This was a mistake I noticed yesterday. What we're going to do to fix that is, if we look from the front, we're just going to make sure that our hip is at least centered and in the correct position. But we see that our root is independently like moved off. So what we can do then is we can unparent the hips so it's separated, and then we can take the root again and just make sure to zero it out so it's completely at the center of the scene. And then we can mark the hips again, mark the root, and parent them back with no like damage to anything. So again, we can try to select the controller, select the root, and apply a parent constraint. And you should see that nothing should change here. And now we can move the root about. What we're also going to do is we're going to again take the root controller anim, select the root joint, but this time we're going to apply under constraint, apply a scale constraint, and also maintain offset off, and apply that. This allows us to now transfer scaling data from the controller to that. So if we were to scale this, that would scale with it. But now you see the skeleton is only scaling the root node, and it's counter-scaling all the children. So what we're going to do then is we are going to go into the node editor.
I think I'm just gonna watch instead of trying to.
It's completely fine. Everything is still being recorded, so we're going to select the root. We can select hierarchy just to get all of them and drag them in here. That was a terrible way of doing it, since now we just get everything in a dumb list. Can I just select that and select... No, that's not as helpful. Okay. So what we're going to do is you're just going to mark all these green connections.
Quick question. If you were to add another joint, then would you be able to, or is it destructive to do it?
You can, of course, like this scale thing, you can always like add more joints, and
But
if it gets applied, it's if you can turn this option off if you never want this.
Okay.
And I would probably recommend turning this off when you're creating joints, because this makes joints behave weirdly if you want to be able to transfer scaling data into a game engine, for example. Because if that scaling data, you don't want that to be hidden, like I showed you. Like when you scale the joint, you didn't see anything happen in the... Like if I scale this, you don't see anything happening here, so no animation data will be baked here. And in the game engine then, what you'll see is you'll see it scaling normally, like these will all scale together in the game engine then, which is like, yeah, you know, like try to keep what's happening in Maya, or rather what's happening in the game engine to also happen in Maya, and vice versa. But since most game engines don't have support for this, it's best to just turn it off. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and select all these, the green connections. Generally, I would script this and just like select the entire skeleton and just run it, but I don't want to right now. I didn't think I didn't want to spend time doing that right now, since I want to get most of the rigging done as fast as possible. But I might create a script like that, either during one of the tutoring sessions, or probably during one of the tutoring sessions, and if I do, I'll share it with you guys. And then delete that as well. So now, when we're scaling this master controller, we should see the entire skeleton scale with it, which it seems to be doing. Awesome. So now we have like general scaling functionality. We wanna keep this control. Often, like you're rarely gonna be, if you're gonna scale up a character for a game, you're rarely gonna be doing things like this. But you probably usually want to keep like your scale zeroed and everything proportional and correct always. But it's good to understand how things work. Okay. with the root done and the master done, we're gonna go and start working on the spine and setting up an IK-FK spline. And to start off, we can actually start it with immediately creating the spline. So under, oh my, you can just go into the rigging tab, I think, if it's there. It's not there. Awesome. Is it under? Oh, here it is. Awesome. We have create IK spline handle. So I'm just gonna get it over here, and then we're gonna select the root joint, the hip joint, and then we're gonna select the chest joint. Or wait, no we don't. We just click the tool, and it will let us first click on the hip joint and then the chest joint, and it creates an IK handle and a curve. And the IK handle doesn't really function like the IK handle would for the leg, where you have a transform. I'm in the transform tool and I'm able to move it. It's just something that houses a bit of information. So usually I just name that spine IK handle, and then I just hide it because we don't have to think about it right now. And for the curve,
How do you hide it?
oh sorry, yes, I press you can either, oh you don't have any visibility options here. I press Control H, but I don't know if that is the default button for it. Does
Just
anybody know?
H works.
Just H works? Okay, then pressing H will work just to hide it. Does pressing H again on it unhide it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Not for me.
You don't have to hide it then. We're gonna leave it here, just so nothing gets confusing. I probably shouldn't isolate things either. How are we gonna do this in a good way? Okay, I'm just gonna, in the mesh group, you can turn visibility on and off like this. And by doing this, I'm pressing the name here, and I'm pressing my middle mouse button, and I'm dragging from left to right to toggle something. You can also do that for attributes as well. But yeah, I'd like to. It's a quick way of handling attributes. But anyway, I'm gonna hide the body right now because it's not necessary to see it. I'm gonna quickly show you under display. You can, under NURBS, you can display CVs, and here you can see a couple of points. And if you were to drag one of these points, you'll see that the spine tries to conform to the curve. And the way we're going to use this is we're going to use this curve basically like a skin. Or rather, we're going to skin two joints to this curve. I'm going to quickly go into this and hide the CVs again. And now we're going to click on the joint tool again. Accidentally click two joints, deleted the other one, and I'm gonna reset it so it's oriented in the world. And then I'm going to match this joint's position and rotation to the hip joints, because that's usually how I want to keep things oriented together. So I'm gonna select, a good way of doing that is selecting the hip joint first, and then I'm selecting this joint, and then I'm going to go into constraints, and then I'm going to create a parent constraint with maintain offset off, which immediately is going to snap it to this position. It's gonna gain some position values and some rotation values. And then I can just delete this parent constraint, and I still keep all those values. So now it's positioned where I want it to be. And then I'm gonna name this hip IK. Hip spine IK. Probably gonna name it. You can like mark things and name them like hip spine IK joint, but I usually don't bother since I have the icons that shows me what they are. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for the chest. We create a joint. We're gonna select the chest. We're gonna select the joint. We're gonna constrain, and we're gonna parent constrain it to snap it up here. And then under the joint, we're gonna delete that constraint. And then we can just copy the name over and name this one chest. So with these two joints then, we're also gonna name this curve to spine IK curve, or CRV. I like to shorthand it. And now I see an immediate to get some similarities in the namings, I'm gonna create some spaces here, because my naming conventions aren't perfect either, but they're okay. They're okay. And then I'm gonna select these two, the two joints that we created, and you can just select them from here by control selecting, and the curve that we created, and then we're going to skin, and then with the bind skin option, I'm gonna reset the settings so they're all default, and I'm just gonna apply the default skinning to it. And what we get now is with these joints are now driving the curve, which is then driving the spine. So we can move these and rotate them, and we'll see the body moving with it. What we now want to do is we want to create control objects, because we don't want to be animating, we never want to be animating the joints themselves. We can also probably, can we freeze transformations? No, we can't. We can either do it again by removing, because it's bad to have rotations here. You can also take and copy a value here, and then or rather copy a value here and paste it into the joint orientation instead, just to try to keep rotation zeroed for joints. Not super important for these, because we're basically just going to be placing them, they're going to be driving the curve, and then we're going to ignore them. So there can be values here, but just in case, we want to try to hide values as much as possible. So I'm just going to copy over these values and zero them out. And zero them out. There we go. So nothing should have changed.
A quick question.
Yes.
Is the joints are not going to be exported, right? These two.
These two are not going to be exported, no. They are just going to be they're going to be in the under the rig group somewhere.
No. Is there, because I've seen people do this with groups as well, is this to be preferred, or is it just personal preference?
How do you mean by with groups instead?
Instead of a joint, you have a control group with values.
I'm not to get skinning at all, you need a joint in Maya.
Okay.
So
I just when I was looking around, it was like, what? How did I get that to work?
Oh, I guess you can actually. Oh, I can show you. Instead of having joint and skinning, you can use clusters instead. So
maybe that's what they were doing.
Yeah, that might be it. So.
But this seems easier.
Yeah, joints are a bit more clear, but you can. I can show you on the. I'm gonna unhide the mesh real quick, and then we can select a bunch of vertices like this, and then under deform, we can create a cluster and apply that, and then we get a little cluster handle here, which would be, instead of the joints, that would be deforming the curve. So we'd probably had two clusters, one at the top and one at the bottom, and they can have their own skinning as well. But I rarely use clusters, but they can be effective and useful. But for this, I just learned using joints. You can use clusters as well. Okay, now, yeah, as I said, we don't want to be animating these, so we want to create control objects for them. So we're once again gonna be clicking the control curve creator thing, and then we're gonna name it. So we're gonna create first a body anim that's going to be driving like the entire body, and we're gonna group it while it's here, and we can copy over the name. And then we can select the group, and we can hold V, and we can snap it up here. It's a little, I'm not like there isn't a set. You can either have it oriented like this, like right now it's oriented to world, but you can also, like I showed before, that you can select a joint, and then now we're going to select the group instead, because we don't want to put any values on the curve, and you can constrain and parent constrain in case you want to orient it in the same way that the joint is oriented. And if you get a curve like this, you can either like isolate it and select the control points, and then hold J and rotate it back into place, or you can just select the curve, and if you still have this make NURB circle, and you haven't cleared the history on the curve, you can just change this from having its normal axis be X forward instead of Y, and it will just orient itself to that. I think we're gonna keep it in the same orientation as the spine. So we're gonna leave it at this. We can clear history on it, and we can select some points here, and I like to make them a bit more square. You can also, when it's all zeroed out and you know it's completely matched with the group above, you can like scale things and freeze transformation without being afraid of something weird happened.
Just one thing.
Yes,
Can't you just create a NURB square instead then?
but I like the round shape.
Okay.
It's completely fine to create any shape. You can also, in the curve tools, you can use the CV curve tool and create any shape you want and use these. I think this is this. Yeah, you can set it to, by clicking it, you can set it to cubic instead, and then you can draw, and you'll get more rounded shapes if you want to create fancy curves. Okay, but now we're going to create with the body controller, which is going to be driving the entire spine and all of the upper body. We're going to also create a hip controller and then a chest controller as well. So again, we're going to create a controller. We're going to group it. We're going to name it hip ik anim. And we're going to name the group hip anim group. And again, we're going to select this. We're going to select the group above it, and we're going to constrain and parent constrain with the offset off. And then we're going to delete the constraint again. We can, in this, change it so it's oriented the way we want it, and we can clear history on it. So it's nice and clean. And now with the hip, I like to can scale it down a bit, and I also like to try to shape it into sort of a pelvis shape to try to make it as clear as possible as to what it's controlling. That looks decent. You can also, if you are selecting the control points, you can also move them up a bit without really caring if the center of the object is exactly where the thing is controlling, because it's better to position it so it's showing more of where the body, or rather, so the shape matches the body a bit better, because I think it looks nicer. And as you can see, it's still matching the positioner. And now we can take this hip joint, and we can just you can select it and select the controller, and we're just going to parent it. And then we can just click on the joint here and see that there are no offsets to them. They're exactly matched. So now we have a controller, and it's driving the chain, the hip at least. And then we're going to do the same again for the chest. Chest, IK, anim. Chest, IK, anim, group. And click the chest, click the group, constraint, parent constraint. And fix the orientation of it. Clear history. And shape it a bit. You can shape it however you want. This is your one opportunity to express some artistry in the rigging process. And then again, select the joint that we created, select the controller, parent them, see that they're exactly matching. And you can also, with these two joints, turn the visibility off so you can hide them, because we don't need to see them and we don't want to accidentally click them. You can also actually, with this IK spline handle, if you can't hide it, you can also, in the attribute editor, you can go into display and you can turn off visibility here, I think, yeah. And you can also template it, so if you ever were to be able to select it or touch it, you can't do anything with it. And same thing with this curve, something we likely want to hide. So now, create our hip, we'll create our body, create our hip or chest. Now we're going to quickly organize how they are parented. And since we want this body control to drive the entire upper body and the hip as well, we're going to take the two groups above, the animation objects, and parent them to the body. So now when we rotate this, everything follows along. And now we can animate this.
Hey, I have a question about this part.
Yes?
I think I followed along, but I can only rotate it on 2 axes, like the third one does not do anything.
You can't do this?
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
That one doesn't do anything.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that fun part of an IK spline, which is
right.
the twist. But it's actually what we should do now, right? So with the IK handle that I now hid, I can just show the visibility again. Under it, we should have something under IQ Solver attributes, there's an advanced twist control. And this is fun. In the advanced twist control, this is where we set up to give it the ability to, when you're twisting this, we want the spine to twist with it. So we want to enable it, and then you're going to see exciting, weird flipping and stuff happening. But you shouldn't be alarmed, because that's just the default settings working, rather. So we're going to change the settings from object or world up type rather to object rotation up start end. And then we're going to also remember the names of the controls we created, the hip IK anim and the chest IK anim. And in the bottom object we're gonna name the hip IK underscore anim and chest IK anim. And I don't think it'll work yet. Apparently it does. Awesome. Now if you display the rotation axes, you can see a twist being applied. But I'm unsure if the settings are perfect or not. Probably want the up vector to be Z. We want the forward axis to be, can we say negative Z here? Nope, we want it. Okay, I might have changed things so it's didn't change anything, but I don't know. Different settings, same results. But it seems to work correctly. But doing that should give you, by either leaving it as it were or changing it to what I'm having right now, which is this, if you want to look at it again.
Yeah, I don't have a twist yet.
I am going to quickly just copy paste an image of what I have in there so you can look and match.
Great.
And in the IK handle I'm going to once again go into the display options and turn off visibility and template it. We're also going to mark the spine IK handle and the spine IK curve, and we're gonna press Ctrl G to group them and create a don't touch group. You can name it whatever aggressive thing you want to keep other people's hands off them, or your own hands off them as well. So now we have a decently functioning spine with IK functionality. What we can do now as well, which is common for this setup, is we can create some FK control objects as well. And we're gonna do that the same way we created all the objects by just, I'm gonna create an object like this, scale it to make it square. I usually keep my FK controls squared and my IK controls a bit curved. That's just a general thing that I like to have. Does anybody not understand the difference between IK and FK? Sorry if I'm confusing that person then. I can explain it if somebody wants.
Yeah, please do. Please.
Okay, the difference between IK and FK is basically in FK mode you have a chain that has a hierarchy of objects. And if you rotate the parent, the child moves, and so on. And an IK chain more works on an like inverse way, where it's I'm moving a target, which is this target here, and but in this case it's the curve that it's trying to follow. So the curve is the target, and then the rotations are being applied in a way to reach that point, rather than you are just rotating and the rotations are just applying the point that the end joint will point at. Does that sort of explain it? Don't know if it was a
Yeah,
very
perfectly.
good
Thanks.
explanation. It's okay. But okay, yeah. So we're gonna create FK controllers as well, so we can, which gives us the ability to pivot or move this control object instead of just being able to just rotate it from here. We want to maybe be able to, from here, rotate it outwards so it falls out more if the character bends over. But yeah, we created a square-ish object. I'm going to duplicate it once. I think the default key is Control D. Can someone confirm? By selecting object and pressing Control D.
It is.
Do you duplicate it? Okay, I'm gonna assume so. Someone scream at me if you're having problems. And we're gonna name the first one spine 01, because I think that's what we named our joints. Yeah, spine 01. So spine 01 FK anim, and the other one spine 01 or 02 rather FK anim. And we're gonna click one, create a group, click the other, create a group, and just name the groups as well. And then we're going to take the first spine there and select the group for the first spine controller. And then we're going to constrain, parent constrain, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to select the second spine. We're going to select the second spine group, constrain, parent, so they both snap. And then we can take the parent constraints and remove them. And we can also select both these, rotate them. Whoa, that's interesting. We selected a group accidentally. We can rotate them out, scale them a bit, so they're conforming a bit. We don't want to scale them too close to the body in case this folds and it's disappear, but they should be easy enough to pick from any direction. We're going to freeze the transformations, and now we should have completely matched positions. Yeah. What we're going to do then is we're not going to be constraining these joints directly. Instead, we're going to parent the second group to the first controller. So we're getting so when we're rotating the lower one, the upper one follows along, and the one you can rotate as well. And then we're going to take to find objects easily, I like to just select them in the scene, and then you can hover the mouse over the outliner here and press F, and it should find it wherever it is and show you. But we're going to take the chest IK anim group, and then we're going to parent that under the spine 2. So what we can do now is we can rotate the body out from different points if we should so want. And we can still move this about as much as we want. And then we're going to take the spine 1 anim, and we're going to, or the group, and we can shift select and parent it at the body. So now everything moves together, and we should have a fully functioning spine rig now, almost. Right. The last thing we can do, we can take the body group again. I don't know if I unparented it. And parent into the master on him. So now everything is again under the master. And everything should scale decently. You can parent the do not touch group into the under the master controller. If we scale, then you'll see that the body will move up, and the reason for that is we're scaling the spine IK curve, which is then doubly like applying transformations to the spine. So what we can do then, you can either not have it parented under master, or you can also under the attribute editor of the object of the spine IK curve, you can uncheck inherit transforms. And I think you can do it as well for the IK handle, because I don't remember if the IK handle gives you issues or not. No, it doesn't seem to, but it doesn't need any transforms, so I'm going to uncheck it anyway, because I don't want any issues in the future. And now you should still have a scalable rig and a working spine. And everything should be functioning under scrutiny. We can leave those location instructions or the visual thingy visible for now. With the spine done, we can probably take a break, actually. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, get some water, chill, and then we're going to continue on and do the leg, I think. Yeah, so see you in 10 minutes. I'm not going to go anywhere, by the way. I'm just letting people take breaks. So if anybody has questions or wants help with anything, I can help.
I have a quick question.
Shoot.
What could be causing the joints to start having different directions? For example,
directions? Yeah.
when I built my leg joints,
Uh-huh.
I had one joint which had different orientation to the rest.
Yeah, that usually has to do with Maya and the joint creation trying to be smart, but not being very smart. That's why
because it's not smart, it's really annoying.
Yeah. If you... Can you have the...
Because when I redid the exact same thing, no problem. And I've had this issue since I started rigging.
If you're stamping a leg like this, and we display the... Like now I drew it like a leg would normally be drawn, I guess, or sort of a shape of the leg. And I display the local rotation axis. It likes to just like flip and look at the... It always tries to look at the child, and sometimes that just... It takes the...
No, it became weird, yeah.
Yeah. And to prevent this, I just always draw my joint chains in a straight line, and then rotate them afterwards. So I just...
So that's the reason why you always drew it in a straight line to begin with.
Draw like this.
I should start doing that then.
And if you wanna, like, you can see here that the last joint is oriented differently.
Yeah.
Because it always gets oriented differently. I like to often just to get the last joint oriented as well. I like to create...
But you can safely just reset the joint orientation, right? In the...
Yeah, you can either do that, or I just like to create one extra joint and then delete that one. And now I know that my end joint is oriented the same way.
Awesome. I should start creating them in a straight line then.
Yeah, it's safer.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
I think I got something wrong with the twist because the hips always rotate when something along the chest spine rotates.
You mean you're still like with the way we're setting up the IK spine right now? You're always gonna get a bit of rotation in the hip, if that's what you mean.
I think it's rotating more, or maybe because if I look at the feet joints, they flip backwards.
You mean like this?
No, not that.
You can screen share if you want it. Sure.
Let me just like if I rotate it. Let's see what axis around the y-axis. The hips follow too, and the feet joints and the leg joints get swapped, like they're backwards now.
They're backward? Wait.
Yeah, the flipped around, so they're backwards now.
Oh, okay. I understand what you mean. Okay. Did you in the IK handle and under IK solver attributes and in the twist control, have you double checked that your settings are completely correct? The world up object should be the name of this, like the hip animatable object of this, yeah, the hip anim. And the second should be the name of the chest anim. So double checking that those names are completely the same.
Oh yeah, something went wrong with the names there. Maybe it's my cat lying on my keyboard. Yes, you have to give me a bit of space here, thank you. Yeah, I think that was the issue, thank you.
No problem. Also note, if anyone's listening, that if your spine isn't pointing the way my spine is pointing, you might also have issues with the exact same settings that I have. But I'll help configure if anyone's having that issue or similar issue.
Speaking of joint orientation, is Maya's tool for like auto-orienting joints reliable now, or is it still?
I mean,
it can work.
I've tried to use it, but I don't think it's very helpful. Because you have a
Because
tool
like
here,
sometimes it
understand
works and
orients.
sometimes it's just breaks. Yeah,
you have
that
this
one.
tool, and it's sort of doing the exact same thing. Like you I think you'll be getting the exact same results as if you're drawing joints like this. So if you were to have a chain like this, and you were to apply this tool to it, I think it would like give you the same wrong rotations as you have here.
Sometimes I don't know how it calculates, but it's weird.
But yeah, I hate changing the orientation of joints. I think I do have a tool somewhere that I used to use at least before I just started drawing things straight.
Comment joint orientation.
Yeah, that one.
It's nice.
Yeah, that one's better, I think, because then you can manually just like tweak them, but it's a bit finicky to work with as well. It's better to just try to keep your rotations as good as possible before anything weird happens.
Indeed.
How much time left did we have of the break?
2 minutes, I think, yeah.
Could you real quick look at an issue I'm having?
Yes.
it's not super serious, and I don't mind if there's no solution. But yeah. So I have my own feet set up. I don't know if you can see.
It's loading. So you might have to restart the stream.
Is it easier to just share your screen, or does it prefer if you do?
I have no idea. I think during this, like, the quarantine, I think Discord is having a bit of an issue with getting streams to go live sometimes.
Let's try screen.
So it usually just helps restarting a bunch.
I see my screen at least.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. This can go away. So I have my knee controllers here.
Mhm.
And right now I have I forgot what it's called, a point constraint on them, so they move in these axes but not upwards.
Mhm.
And they don't do shit when I rotate.
Mhm.
Because if I parent them and you rotate them, the knees will go back here.
Yeah.
But I would like the knee to like follow along as if I have a parent constraint when I do this.
Mm.
So the knee would move to like over here-ish. But I can't figure out the way to do both of these at the same time.
I might have a solution, but I'll have to get back to you. I'm gonna do a bit of, if you're still here after the lecture, we should be done at 8.
Right.
I'll be staying for an hour and helping if anybody wants.
Yeah, but this is like very low priority. If other people need help with more real issues, you can put mine like last on the list.
Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, thanks anyway.
Okay, we can continue on with the lecture. Awesome. So now we're going to be creating the IK leg and the feet as well. And I'm only going to do one side, and then you can just apply. I'm just going to show you how I would do. I'm thinking of doing the other side as well, because it'll go faster, and I can get to the arms quicker, or the arms and head quicker, or yeah, arms, head, fingers. Okay, so with the legs, we can start off by under skeleton. We're going to Control Shift and left click create eye candle, which gives us this tool. And the eye candle tool has two different solvers. There's a single chain solver, which we'll use for the ankle and toe, and a rotate plane solver, which gives functionality to use a pole vector. You also have gonna reset the tool. There's also a sticky option here, which you can have on or off. You'll only see the effect of it at the beginning, but it won't matter what you have it on. With sticky on, if you create a chain, it's going to try to stay in place in the world. And if you create it with sticky off, it will by default just follow the parent. But I like to keep sticky on just to see the effect immediately, because I don't like the feet just flying around. So we're gonna create our first IK handle from the top leg bone down to our ankle, and with this now we can control the feet a bit. But as you can see, when we move this about, our ankle is still rotating and not staying on the ground properly. So what we're also going to do is we're going to again go into the IK handle tool, but we're instead of a rotate plane solver, we're going to create a single chain solver. And from the ankle down to the toe, and then we're going to create another one, still a single chain solver, from the toe to the tip of the toe. Don't know why my toes are so far out right now, but apparently they are. So what I'm going to do now as well, which you don't have to do, but you can, I can just smooch it in a bit, because I didn't like my toe placement. Oh, now I know why. It's because, do I have anything? Interesting. My legs look moved, but I don't know what I moved. Going back a couple steps just to see if something weird has happened. No? Have I applied rotation here? Nope. Interesting. Okay, so what I'm gonna do real quick, since we haven't done any rigging on the legs yet, I'm just gonna quickly I'm going to take the right leg and I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to quick and subtly just make sure my rotations are just in one channel and one translation channel, just making sure that they're planar. And I'm going to take the top leg, rotate it a bit so it's more in the position of the knee where I want it, close to the I forget the name now, but the tip of the knee where the nice shape is, which we want to stay close to it so we can keep the shape. The what? Kneecap, yes. And so I just moved it back a bit, and then I'm going to freeze transformations just to apply those rotations again. And then I'm going to just inspect and see that it looks decent, which it seems. Might be a bit too close to the kneecap, because the closer it is to the kneecap and further away it is back here, the more collapsing you'll get back here. So I'm probably gonna find a bit more decent spot there. Freeze transformations, and since this fell out, I'm going to take this joint, make sure I'm just rotating in one axis and rotating it back out again just to place it a bit more center of the ankle. I'm going to freeze that again and see that I only still have one rotation channel, one translation channel, and I haven't broken my leg in any way. Now that looks better for placement. So now I can select the chain again, and we can go in skeleton, mirror joints, and select, since this is the left leg, I'm going to search for left, apply to right, and apply it over. So now I have both sides. Okay, now with the leg. So again, we're going to create a rotate plane solver. Like this. And then we're going to play a single chain solver here, and another single chain solver to the end there. If you accidentally create the wrong solver, you can, under IK solver attributes of any of the solvers, you should be able to change them. I thought. Unless I was mistaken, which I seem to have been.
No, you should be able to do. Somewhere.
I was super sure that you could just select.
Yeah, you can. But I can't remember where either.
Okay, we're just gonna ignore that for now. But yeah, so we're creating a rotate plane solver from the top of the leg down to the ankle, and then 2 single chain solvers for the ankle. So this one is now rotating this joint here, and this one for the toe. And now
It's in the attribute editor, EK solver attributes, and then you can change.
am I blind?
There. What?
It just is blind solver for some reason. Wait, did I make the wrong? Did I create?
I had two options.
Oh, I think I might have created.
I had two options,
It says
so
here rotate plane solver and a single chain solver. So
I don't know.
what does it say? Oh, I might have. Wait. Okay, we're just gonna ignore that. Whatever. We're gonna name the one of them, or the top one, left leg IK handle. We're gonna name the other one left ankle IK handle. Close that. And this left toe ankle toe IK handle. And with these now, when we're moving the leg about, you'll see that the foot stays planted on the ground where you want it. Now we can start creating control objects for the leg. So either, I'm gonna start by creating control, left leg IK anim, and then group. So the two options with leg IKs, you can either, or for at least the controller, you can either have it positioned by the ankle, which is completely fine. For some reason, I'm just gonna go ahead and hide the mesh. You can either have it positioned by the ankle. So if you were to take the yeah, you can either have it here, or you can have it if I hold X and then I snap it down by the ground. I think I prefer to have it on the ground, just because like when you know that this controller is zeroed in Y, you know it's completely planted on the ground. But you'll find rigs with both setups, and neither is like super much better than the other, just preference. So I'm gonna show the body again just to better be able to position this. I'd usually just place it directly under. So I took the group, I held V, and I snapped it to the joint. And then I still, with the group selected and with the transform tool enabled, I hold X and then snap it, just dragging this top one down to snap it to the ground. And what we can do now is we can just, I'm gonna just quickly shape it a bit. And since I'm only affecting the shape, it doesn't matter if I'm moving all these points around a bit. I can select that. Shape it a bit like a foot.
I think, isn't there a way somewhere where you have like pre-made nerve groups that, for example, look like a foot?
I know the webs or the Gumroad of the guy that made this skinning tool, which I linked, also has this tool if you want to use it, so you can find it there. And it has a couple of like already made controls which you want to use, and one of them being a foot, which you can just double click and you get a sort of a foot. But I don't know if there's anything in Maya directly, if that's what you mean.
Okay, it might be that one.
But you can find lots of those tools. You can probably, like, if you Google like control curve creator Maya or something like that, there's probably a bunch of free tools. But okay, so we've moved it about it. It still has the mic curve. I'm just gonna go back to my shop and clear history on it so that disappeared. It's still clean. And what we're gonna do now is we can take all these curves now and just quickly parent them under this. And now we can also just select them all, and in the, or we can only select one at a time. You can either just hide them manually, or you can select each and go into attribute editor, and under display you have visibility here, which you can toggle on and off. And now we have the simplest form of the IK control. And we see we can get like the foot stretching a bit as well. And you can also have a bit of heel pivoting, sort of, but it's not like positioned with the heel. But we're gonna make more controls for driving the foot. But before we do that, we're going to create a pole vector. And the pole vector basically describes where this knee is pointing. Right now it's pointing pretty straight, and under the leg you'll have you have this pole vector, which is sort of where the knee is pointing right now. It's the direction the knee is pointing. But there's also a roll attribute where you can apparently, or a twist attribute, sorry, where you can twist it. And this is sort of the control we want to gain, but with a controllable object instead. And if you, I'm actually going to take the leg and unhide it to make it a bit clear. If you were to just create a curve and just move it about and just try to position it in front, and you take that and you take the IK handle and you apply a pole vector constraint, you see that the knee snaps and rotates towards this, so now it's pointing towards this object. But since we're creating the rig, we want to try to get this pole vector position and apply it without rotating anything, because we want the default position to be the current position. We don't want to change anything, since this is how we created the skeleton for the body. And one way of doing it is by, you could maybe find a script, but without a script, the easiest way I've found is being in the modeling tab, and under mesh tools you have create polygon, and by using that tool we can hold V and snap to the first joint, snap to the second joint by holding V again, and then holding V and snapping to the last joint. And now we will create a triangle, and I'm going to hit enter to apply it. So now I have a triangle, which should be a straight line, which is why I wanted you guys to keep the leg in a straight line from this direction at least, or keeping only one rotate value and one translate value. And now you can, if you're in the transform tool by pressing W, you can hold D on your keyboard and you should get the option to snap your pivot somewhere. And I like if you hover over the tip here, you can align it to that vertex. And now, if you just, now it's like perfectly aligned with the plane. And if you push it forward a bit, sort of where you want your pole vector to be, you can now then create an object. So we're going to create an object, we're going to name it left leg pole vector. I'm going to group it. That's pole vector group. And we're going to take this group then, we're going to hold V, and we're going to snap it to that tip of that triangle. And now, if we take this and take the, we'll double check first now that we don't have any rotations here. We have like these weird minus that we don't care about. But everything we should still be zeroed. And then we can select the controller, select the IK handle, and under rigging constrain pole vector, and we apply it, and we should still see no rotations or anything. So we can delete this plane. And now, if you want to get the same position on the other side, you can pretty easily just duplicate this object, which creates a copy immediately, and then Control G to create a group, which create a group at the center here, and scale it by -1, which gives it a mirrored position. And then you can unparent it. And by having the minus scale, you can get this effect, where like you're dragging in and out like that. This is sometimes not super useful, because it's rarely you're doing like that you want this movement in like a super easy way. So sometimes it can be a good idea to wait. So scale it by 1 again. And you can also just, since this isn't rotated, you can unrotate this, so they're now effectively the same. It's up to you, like how you want them to be controlled. But yeah, so that's how you set up the other side. But we're just gonna do one side now, and for this we can also just, you also usually want to shape the first one before you duplicate it. So I'm going to create a similar shape to one of you guys. Feel like a water droplet. And now we move this. Okay, so clear history on it, so we don't have that circle creation. So now we have a leg and a pole vector. To now get some extended functionality, we can also just go into this IK handle and hide it. Now, to create some foot rolling. Foot rolling can be made in a couple different ways. You can either just have like animation controls that you place in arbitrary positions. So you sort of place a control here, or you would group it first and then place the group sort of here, and then you would have this controller. I'm just gonna move that up. Or actually, we can take this group here and just parent out the master, or the master controller. But so you position it sort of by the heel, and then you would, under the IK controller, you would place that controller, and then you would just take the IK handles and place them under that controller. So now, with this controller here, you'd be able to pivot from the heel. You're still able to control everything with this. And then you have a couple of positions that you rotate from, which is probably how we will be setting it up. But another way of doing is, or actually I'm probably gonna, no, yeah, that's one way of doing it. You can also have these arbitrary positions, and on the controller bit itself you can add attributes, and then you can drive like the foot roll via those attributes instead, which is how you'll see some rigs be set up if you watch any tutorials, which is how I first learned it as well. But another way of doing it is which is sort of like the first way that I showed, but it gives a bit more of a visual representation of what's happening. And to get that, we're going to create another joint chain. So we're going to create a joint chain that's called, I think the entire setup is called a reverse footlock, but the joint chain is basically just showing all the transforms that we paint out, and there will be in a certain hierarchy that we can pivot from different points. I'll show you. It's easier if I just create them. So we're going to create the first one by holding V and snapping it to the heel, because it will be like the heel pivot. These are way too large still, so I'm just going to change the default to be 0.1. This one to be 0.1. Just gonna delete it and read it, because it's better to just continue it as a chain. Or is it? No, I don't want it as a chain, because I want them to be pointing in the direction I want them to. Yeah. So I'm creating a first joint here. We can name this one left heel piv as a pivot. And then we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to create, like, hold V and drag it to the side here. I can try to remember the order of how I want these parented. Okay, one in the side there, and then we're going to duplicate again. Snap one to the other side. I'm gonna put it more sort of on the other side of the foot. So with these two we can roll the foot from right to left, if you so choose. And then we're going to take again, we're going to duplicate it, we're going to place that one sort of in the middle there.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
We'll be learning reverse footlock.
This is a form of reverse footlock setup.
Okay. Then I understood correctly, I guess.
Okay, awesome. And then we're going to take another one, duplicate it, and snap it to the toe. You can change the radius a bit to not have overlapping, so you know which one you're selecting. And then another one by the, going to hide the mesh to more easily snap. Gonna snap this one to that joint, the football joint. Or actually it's easier to, you can either create them like this, but it's probably easier because we want some of them to be oriented in a more pleasant way. So we're going to create a joint tool again, and then we can just start from the other end, and we're going to hold V and snap one joint there, snap-on joint to the ball, snap-on joint to the toe, snap-on joint to the, like back to the center here, out to the right, oops, back to the left. You can do left, right, doesn't matter which side you do first, and then back to the heel. And we can apply that. This is sort of the weird reverse foot setup. I'm just gonna delete the old ones because I created new ones now. And now we can just go about naming them first to keep track of them. So left, heel, piv, and this is so left, I'm gonna try to remember which one. So we're gonna name this one ball pitch, because this joint will be rotating like this, and then we'll have this left toe piv. We can name them pitch piv just to be consistent in some way. And this one is sort of the same position, but this will be the left ball jaw piv. And the word pitch and jaw is something that you might encounter sometime in the future. The difference is basically if I create a cube. In this like world orientation, rotating like this would be the object's pitch rotation, and looking up and down would be the, no wait, okay, left and right would be the jaw rotation, and up and down would be the pitch rotation. Okay, so now, so this is going to be the left out bank piv and left in bank piv. I really don't know what good names to have for these, but this, wait, this is just sorry, the first one should just be left, should we name that one? It's not really a pivot, but we'll just name it left ankle piv, even though we're not really gonna use it as anything. And the last one, left heel piv. Okay, so now this one we're gonna unhide the body again. We can actually temporarily hide the root skeleton, so we don't have like joints on joints or too many joints on joints. But now we're gonna try to orient these in a way that we want. Or first we can select everything and then unparent everything, because we're gonna reparent them in another order. But now we have a chance of orienting them in the way that we want them to rotate. And since the leg is sort of in a straight line, you can, it's just, I'm going to probably gonna have the heel pivot out a bit to the side when we're rolling the foot. Just freeze transformation. For consistency's sake, you can rotate it just to have the X axis being the one pointing forward, which can be good practice. And then we can take these can rotate them as well, so X is forward. This one looks oriented decently. This one is some weird orientation. So we're just gonna rotate it. Probably wanted to share the rotation of this joint, so you can just parent it to that joint. And in the rotation, we can just remove everything, so it's zeroed out while it's parented on this other joint, and then we know they are exactly the same. And then we can do we want to parent like that? I think we want them. So we want the outer to be to the heel. We want the inner to be to the outer. You can have the outer to the inner. That's super important. This will be the ball twist. We don't want, or the ball jaw. And we probably don't want any weird rotations on that. So we can just zero it out. Put the X forward. We can orient it a bit more to the foot. Take the inner. Whoops. Parent it to the inner. The toe. Gonna move some of the weird rotations. Probably a bad idea by drawing that skeleton like that, but we learn. Yeah, we can go on that pivot. Freeze that transform. Now it's a bit close, so we want the toe to be parented to the ball jaw. And then we have this joint, the pitch, and we want that parented to the toe. We want the ankle parented to the pitch. So now you should have, you can roll up on your heel, you can go up on your right bank, your left, you can twist the foot like you're squashing something. And you can go up on your toe, and you can just press down your toes and roll up the leg. But to transfer this functionality over to the leg, we're going to take all of this and parent it under the foot controller. So everything following like this. And then we're going to take the toe icon handle and parent that under the toe. The ankle icon handle, parent that under the ball pitch, and then the left leg icon handle and parent that under the ankle. So now if we take the root here again, I hit it, we're gonna turn visibility back on. Now we can bank off our heel. We can go up to the side like this. Other side. Squash something. Go up on our toe. And yeah, press our toe down like this. So this is a pretty good footlock setup with like the joint part just, or the transform part. Now to get these rotating, you could either use, as I said, attributes, hook them up, and just connect every attribute having like a heel pivot, so that drives it rotating up, and outer pivot and an inner pivot and a foot. Yeah, but I prefer just creating control objects for each of them and just limiting which way they rotate in, and just making sure that they share the same hierarchy as these do. It can get cluttered, and especially now since I created like especially here in the center, but yeah, I think it's easier to animate, but it's completely up to you how you want to do it. I should probably, if you want them to be driven by attributes, I can show that real quick. So you can add an attribute here. We're gonna call this heel pivot. Call it whatever. We're gonna name it heel pivot. You can put a minimum, maximum, but we don't have to. We're gonna add it, so we have that attribute. From here, you have two options. You can either use the Windows where is the we want to set driven key. Can anybody guide me? Set driven key. There we are. Set driven key under edit. So we can select the controller and load as driver, which means that this will be the driving object, and then we can select the joint and load that as driven, because that will be driven. So we can select the heel pivot, which will be the attribute that we'll be driving with, and then we check which rotate channel we want. So we want rotate Z. So we're gonna select rotate Z, and then we're gonna key. Because now when we know that this is zeroed, this will be zeroed. And what we can do then is that we can, on this, we can increase this to an arbitrary number of 10. And then we're going to transform this a bit to what we want 10 to represent. So we can say that 10 going up will be the heel pivot going back. So we can rotate that to 50. And the reason you're seeing it go out of the socket is because we're hyperextending the leg. So it's trying to reach that point, but it just can't. And then we're going to key again. And then we can set this to -10. We can select this joint again and go to -50. And once again key that. So now you have an attribute driving this. You can add like a bunch of functionality to this. You just have one attribute which rolls back, and then when you push it forward you reach this point, and at this point you don't want to keep rolling forward because you don't want to go under the ground, so you start maybe rolling this up instead, or the toe up. Oops. But yeah, that can just get infinitely complex. But yeah, that's how you do it the attribute way. But I am going to edit and delete that attribute. I'm also going to in the node editor real quick. Check. Here's the curve that I created, which I can delete because I don't need it, because I don't want any extra garbage. But okay, now we're just gonna try to quickly create some. Oh my god, my time. We're gonna quickly create some control objects. We're probably going to be taking another break in about 10 minutes, but I'm gonna try to get this finished. So, okay, control objects, group it, name it, heal, left, heal, piv, anim. And then we can take this, mark the group, and then constrain, parent constrain. And then we can just scale this down a bit for now, and freeze transform. And then again, create another one, group. You can break now if you don't want to watch me just keep creating objects. I'll try to be done by 10 past. We're doing the left outer bank piv anim group. I'm pretty sure. I named it outbank. That's probably better. Select that, select the group, constraint, parent. Downscale it. Freeze transformations, yeah. Go sector history. If anyone has any questions, I can take questions while I do this.
I just have a little question about tomorrow.
Yes?
Will it be like the same kind of tutoring that it was yesterday, that it's okay to miss, or will it be a lesson?
I planned it as okay to miss. I want to try to get like most of the rigging done on the character today, which looks like I'll probably be able to at this point. So tomorrow will just be like helping people getting to the point where I end today, probably.
Okay.
So people can drop in and drop out when they want, and we'll see like if people need help till 9 p.m. or not. Because I'll stay till 9 p.m. if people need help, or if there's no one who needs help, I'll probably end it, or I'll be still available via Discord. You can just spam me. I'll just probably be playing games or something.
Okay.
I was wondering, the way you're doing it is with joints,
Yes.
and the way I learned is with groups, and you just put the pivot basically where you have your joints.
Yeah, it's
Is
exactly
it
the same.
basically the same?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. This is just This is just a way of visualizing it, I think. Like
So
you're
the
just
joints are
visualizing
kind of redundant.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna assume most people have gone on break now, so I'm just gonna not do too much else while we wait.
Will the break last until
10 past.
Okay.
Gonna be right back. I have returned. Can wait 1 extra minute for people to get back. Okay, we're going to continue on. So I created a bunch of transforms at the control objects, at the positions of each of the joints in this chain here. And what we're quickly going to do now is I'm just going to select each of the control, select the corresponding joint, and then I'm going to create a bunch of orient constraints, because we probably don't want to be translating these about. Or at least not in this rig. If you create parent constraints and you have some functionality for that, that's completely fine as well. But creating orient constraints would be good enough for now. So what I'm doing now is, since I created one orient constraint, I can... So we're gonna find this real quick. Can delete that again. Wait, delete it. Of course I did. When you create one constraint, when you do any action in Maya, you can very easily redo that action by just selecting the same things again and pressing G, and Maya will continue doing what you just did. It can be very nice when you're doing the same action X amount of times. Okay, so now everything should be orient constrained the way we want it. Now we just want to...
Just a quick question. Did you record the pause or?
Yeah, I recorded everything.
Okay.
I'm very paranoid of forgetting to turn things on again.
Thank you.
So now do you just want to parent these control objects the same way we've parented these joints? An easy way, instead of just like dragging and selecting here, which you can do, is middle mouse dragging or clicking and parenting like this. You can select this joint and then you can press upwards on your keyboards, which will bring you to the group, and then you can shift select the thing you want to parent the group to, which is in this case the heel, since we can just follow the parenting of the joints and parent it like that. So now we have that parented the way we want it to here. We can do the same thing here, since this one is parented to this one. Just up arrow, select the outer one here by shift selecting and parenting, and so on. So this one, up arrow to parent, select this one here and parent it. And then this one, up arrow, select the big circle here and parent. This one, I haven't bothered with any of the shaping of these yet. It's not super interesting to stare at, so you can shape them however you want. I just try to orient them in sort of a logical way with this being planted here. Well, okay, it's not even that. I just try to make them clear that there are different controllers, especially here in the middle. So two smaller here, which are the outer ones, and then the bigger one here, which will just be this. But yeah. So now we have all that functionality. Now we just want to have the IK handles. They can actually be where they are, to be honest. So now we just want to take these, the group of all the controls, and parent it under the foot. I'm gonna unhide this again so we can see if everything's working properly. We can take this, the other chain that we created, and we can hide that so we don't have to look at it because it's too cluttered. This root thing, I think, is a bit in the way, so I'm just going to go ahead and, since we don't really care about it right now, I'm just gonna scale it down a bit. Yeah. So we have a bar pivot, foot rolls back. We have our outer back, put it out, inner. We have our foot twist or squashy thing, and we have our toe and our this other thing that I just blanked on. I can quickly select all of them. I'm just gonna clear history on them. Some of them I think I forgot. The Maya editor save tabs info will usually just be created when in the Windows node editor you have a thing here. So it's just a memory for this. So if we were to clear this, I think it should disappear from there. Just not some strange thing you have left. Okay. Another thing I probably should have mentioned, but I can just show it real quick like this. To get this, I'm going to show it again. What I did there, I was just duplicated the old chain. And with this, we can quickly also just... These are all like duplicate constraints. They're not really doing anything. They just get duplicated with everything. Same with these IK handles. So just duplicated this to get all the joints out. And what you can do then is you can take these and you can select, shift select the hips and then parent them. Parented it directly to the hips. And since we named everything left, we can have this selected and go into skeleton, mirror joints from left to right and apply, and you get the same skeletal setup on the right side. And for some reason there's an offset there. I think I did a dum-dum when I was orient constraining everything, because I might have rotated some of the bones out of position, which likely caused my leg to go a bit off, maybe? Yeah, it's rotated a bit off. So I would just redo that a bit more cleanly, but I'm I'm not gonna fix that as of right now, because I want to continue on and get as much done as possible. And for getting the controls over, you just mirror over them as you did with this, but you could just do everything at once. But apart from that little mistake, everything seems to be working as intended. I'm going to talk about cleaning up probably in a later lecture, like because right now you only really want to be rotating in this axis for this specific control object. You don't want to, you might want to be able to do other stuff, but usually you only want to be rotating in a specific assigned axis. So to get that, or to do that, you can either, usually you can just get the most bang for buck by just selecting everything here, and then you just lock and hide selected, which will hide them like that, which now means like we can't transform it, we can't scale it, which is usually what you want to do with most of your controls. You can also in the limit information here, for example, if you want to be able to pivot it, but you want to limit how much you want to be able to pivot it, you can add a rotate limit here and the rotate max. So when I try to pivot over that, it won't go. So you can get some more controlled, I guess, movements in case you don't want to break things too easy. But yeah, for the left foot, we're going to take that and pretend like I quickly fix the rotation issues, which I would basically do by removing the constraints, resetting the leg, moving this. We'll see how much time we have left after I've done the arm, and then we go back to it and fix it. Otherwise, I'll fix it tomorrow, and if I do fix it tomorrow, I will be recording that in case you miss it, so I don't do anything that someone risks missing. But anyway, okay, so we're going to save again because it's good to save. We're going to have to take this left leg AK control, and we're going to with the group for it and parent it out of the master control, and everything should be working as intended. Still scalable, movable, and everything. I'm also going to is this the oh yeah, this is the duplication I created, so I'm just going to delete that right now. Okay, so that is the leg mostly done, at least to a acceptable degree. Things to note about the pole vector is that if you move the pole vector behind the knee, it'll flip. So usually you want to prevent that as much as possible. Often when you're animating, you can have this following the foot in different ways, either by parenting it, which can cause issues. Usually you want to have you can have a switch that turns it on and off if you want it to follow or not. There are other ways of setting up so the pole vector always stays in front of the legs, so you can do stuff like this where you can rotate around and it never flips. But I won't be showing that now, maybe later if people want to be shown that. But okay, now with the leg done, which now works nicely, as you can see, stays on the ground, we can move it about, we can control it a bit. We're going to move on to the arm and making a simple FK setup as of right now. and I'll probably show the IKFK setup next week during the first lecture probably. Have I planned any things for next week yet? Probably not.
There is nothing visible on canvas.
Okay, I will add things this evening then, so people know when the lectures are and I'll probably try to keep the lectures to the beginning of the week. So if I had them pretty spread out now, I might do maybe 2 in a row next week, just to have the rest of the week to just help people get to a finished point in the rig. Because I think it's probably bad, even like for the VG status stuff, if I show something on Thursday and you just have like a couple of days to complete it. Just so that's probably what you'll expect. But anyway, so we're gonna move on to arms. So again, with the fun with FK, since we're just basically creating the exact same functionality as the joints themselves have, but with control objects instead, we're just going to be creating objects, naming them left clavicle anim. Wow. And then just constraining the joints. When I do the IKFK setup, I will be probably tearing the thing I already set up apart and then doing it another way. But since I know some of you, rigging is not super important for everyone to know, so I'll show this far for everyone and then show the other for those more interested. And that's perfectly fine, by the way. It's not like a bad thing to not want to like learn everything about rigging. And for me, it's just more efficient to do it this way. Just gonna rotate this a bit. Can probably move this out. Becoming a weird shape real quick. Sort of shaping a clavicle. And then place it close-ish. And right now I'm moving the shape only, so I'm not affecting where the transform is. So if I go out, it's still located with the clavicle and matches the clavicle position. And then we can clear history. And go down the arm. So if anyone has questions, feel free to ask right now. Because right now I'm just doing the same thing we've been doing for a while, which is just create control objects. Can also just duplicate them. Wait, did I create 2 on the same? No. should actually be left clavicle FK anim. Now I mixed up the order a bit. Okay. Gonna do the same thing as I did with the body controls. I'm just first gonna rotate them a bit into place. Take them all freeze transform real quick. And mark all of them, and I'm just going to cubify them a bit. Can also move them down a bit. Oops. There we are. Now we can orient constraint each of these. Make sure you don't get any rotation values. Again, pressing G so I don't get any weird rotations. And then again do the parenting thing. Up arrow, select this one, parent. This one, up arrow, select this one, parent. I press P by parenting. Up arrow and clavicle there and parent. And I forgot to select the clavicle, select that, and constraint and orient constraint. Awesome. So now we have a functioning FK arm. We're going to basically, or rather, the exact same thing as for the arm I would do for the neck. But since that's probably super uninteresting, I'm going to just do the fingers now. Just placing some joints in the fingers. Just to show how I do that. So, as I showed when I created the arm, I like to create joints in a straight line. So I'm going to start by doing that and create the first joint, which will be the, I don't remember the bone names right now, but the top joint of the hand there, which will be this joint, and then the first bendy part, which will be this joint, second bendy part, which will be this joint, and then I just create one more joint as the tip joint. And I just create one more just to orient, and I'm going to delete that so everyone's oriented the same way. Then we can go move it over there. We can scale it down. And try to place it in a decent spot. From above at least first. I like you can scale and then just freeze. And that made every joint massive. That's cool. So we're gonna go with some smaller joint sizes now for the fingers. So it's, whoops, a bit more delicate. Whoops. Accidentally had everything selected. Okay. I am going to hide the skeleton again, just because I don't want this thing in the way right now. I'm gonna go about placing these joints. So it's good to have the wireframe on. See what exactly you're doing. It can be a bit finicky to get absolutely perfect placements in the hands. So for the finger one, usually you don't want it like at the edge of where the finger begins directly, because you would want to be able to fold this finger down so it basically comes out here where I'm hovering right now. And if you have it here, it would pivot and it will never, yeah, it would destroy this part up here, and you wouldn't get any good shaping down here. So the first joint is probably a good idea to have sort of somewhere in the middle, where you want that finger to be pointing down. If you were to point your own finger straight down, here you have your knuckles. So if you look at your own finger and push your finger straight down, you see that your knuckle makes quite a hard shape. So you want to be able to find that shape where the knuckle would go straight down and try to place the joint around there. Getting the skinning right for that is also like can be super hard, but having it decently comes a long way, at least. Also, the placing joints in fingers, you'll find a couple of different assortments, but depending on, it's usually dependent on what you want fingers to do in a game. If you just want like some extra movement, doing it the way I'm doing right now, which is just having a couple of joint chain in each finger and the thumb, is usually enough. If you want the hand to be like holding stuff, usually you might need some extra joints. Sometimes you have joints at the bottom of the hand here, so you'd have one more joint here for this finger, so the finger would be beginning from the bottom of your hand, which isn't really how our hands work, but it gives you, like an animator, some extra control over how they want to shape the hand around an object. You can also have joints around here that you would shape sort of, you would point the joint this way, so you could fold the hand in on itself like you can with your, and you'd probably have these two fingers following that if you were to like fold the pinky and your ring finger inwards to get sort of that movement. And the same with the thumb, having another joint here to be able to fold and sort of meet the center of your hand. It has to do with the performance. You need the hand to perform. But now we're just gonna try to find the other folds. We have a bit of help with the geometry here to see where each of the fingers like to fold, and here I like to practice the same principles as I explained for the knee and elbow by having the joints somewhat close to decide which shape we want to keep the most. Since we care more about this side looking good than we care about this side, since this side will be folding in on itself either way. So we are okay with things clipping into each other here because it will look better. So I'm gonna try to place them a little bit towards the top of the finger. You could practice the same thing a bit here, having it a bit up, but I'm unsure with if that would be beneficial or not for the shape or for the finger movement. But we'll see. It's about experimenting. Sometimes things go wrong and then you just have to redo a bit of rigging and skinning. Often you can do this and while you're placing the joints before you do any of the other rigging, you can skin the character and then try to experiment a bit with how you would do the skinning and seeing if you need to move the joints a bit to get better skinning, and just experiment that way. But right now I'm just gonna eyeball most of it. And I'm just gonna put the end joint there on the tip. I like scaling the parent joint instead of translating this joint, because in case I've rotated this joint and I translate it, it's going to get double. It can get translations in 2 channels, which I don't want, because I want to keep them straight. For fingers, not super important, but it's just something I like to practice for everything. And then once the finger seems decent enough, just freeze transform and just double checking by selecting everything, you should be able to fold it in. And now we can use the first finger we created to basically just create all of the chains. So we can duplicate this. We can name this first so it doesn't come. So left index 1, left index 2, left index 3, left index end. So we don't really care about it. Left middle 1, 2, 3, end. Let's create all of them at the same time here. Ring finger 1, 2, 3, end. Little finger or pinky. Let's call it pinky because it's a cuter name. 1, 2, 3, end. And now, like the first finger, we're just going to go ahead and try to place these in this wonderfully awkward 3D space. Try to move this up a smidge. We can try to find top angle here to try to point it towards the tip of the finger. I think I might have pushed them a bit too far from the top, or to the top, since they're quite thick fingers. Don't want them to completely disappear on themselves. Looks fine. I'm just gonna remember to freeze. Can double check sometimes that the rotations are clean. About 10 minutes left on the lecture, so I'm just gonna try to finish placing these fingers. Finish the thumb as well, probably. Yeah. Have they regained the scaling compensation? 'Cause that's pretty rude. Let's double check that. 'Cause this one was scaling normally, like. Oh no, I can't tell. Yeah, okay. Don't have to worry about that right now. Deal with it next time, or deal with it the same way you did with the rest of the body. Top view. back a smidge. Okay, that looks decent enough, I think. Can always make it better. Okay, we're just gonna leave it at that. And then you can select everyone and just double check that you can rotate them all in together. You can also try to check if the finger rotates from a decent enough position. You can get this line here. I think it looks good enough. Then for the thumb, can become a little bit more awkward because you want to orient it a bit more into place. And the thumb also pivots originally from a different position usually. So you want to try to place the first joint with the thumb sort of folds in instead of just trying to look at my own thumb right now as reference. Can be very finicky to find a good spot. But trying to look at your own thumb is usually, or your own fingers, and usually the best idea to find decent positions for these things. Again, if you have any questions while I'm doing this, just feel free to ask. That looks sort of decent. I might put it too far, too close to the edge maybe. Try to look from the top. Oh, this is a way better side to look at. Probably want, since you have this large lump of fat here, probably want to try to fold along it. So you want to place the joint sort of in that position. And then have this joint be the correcting joints. Having this joint pointing at this joint isn't as important. It's better to have a good rotation on this joint. So you could disjoint them a bit. Try to find a good rotation for it. For the thumb to rotate, or the inner thumb here to rotate on. And then the same thing for the end here. So joints that can get that movement a bit. Might have been a bit too straight, since you probably want to fold it a bit more like in towards this direction. But it's just infinite tweaking and just trying to get decent movement. And I also accidentally scaled this joint without freezing it. There we are. We print that again. Left thumb 1, thumb 2, 3, end. And together with the fingers and thumb now, you should be able to rotate them all. Am I rotating on a good axis right now? Might have made a mistake. The hell are these pointing at? So now I have multiple translate channels, which means that the parents are not looking at each other, which is giving me awkward rotations. So what I do is I want to zero these out. It's just an x-axis to correct that. I've done something very weird. But yeah, today's lecture is mostly done, or actually done. We managed to do the arm in FK mode. We started placing the fingers at least. We did the leg completed with just a little bit cleanup left. And we did this spine today as well, yeah. So just a little bit of tweaking left on the fingers. Then we're just going to take all the fingers. Oops. Print it to the hand. And then create similar controls as I did for the arm here. Or the same controls that I did for the arm here, but for the fingers. And have those finger controls parented to this control. But yeah, I'm gonna officially call the lecture over. So people who want to leave may leave. You're not gonna miss anything in particular. I'm gonna stay and help people and answer questions. So I'm going to, yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording